What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ and Bucky back with you, and we've got our good pal with us today, Peter Schrager. Pete, what's up, man?
Two of my favorite guys in the business and my favorite podcast to listen to while I'm attempting to work out during the pandemic. Guys, thanks for having me on.
Oh, thanks for being with us. Hey, first of all, Buck, how are you doing, man?
Man, I'm good. I am good. It's been a fun-filled weekend. A lot of football news that took place this weekend. But no, it's good. I'm good. DJ, what's up with you?
I'm good, man. The Padres have won 7 in a row. I've got my Tatis Machado election shirt on right now. Schrager's a Yankee fan. This is all beneath him. Actually, the two teams I can't say anything about, I'm on with a Dodger fan, who's the best team in baseball, and a Yankee fan who are probably going to win the World Series. So I guess I'll shut up.
I just appreciate the way the game is played in a traditional and ethical way. And I guess what your support is this new wave that I can't get behind. Hey, 3-0 count, bases loaded. This guy swinging for the fences. No, that's classy. I appreciate it.
Sound like Mad Dog right now. That's fantastic. Hey, Schrags, let's get things going here. There's a lot to get to. We got about 30 minutes to roll here. I want to get your take first of all on Earl Thomas and what went down there and your reaction to it.
Yeah, look, last year in March, they signed Mark Ingram and Earl Thomas to big free agent deals, hoping they'd be the veteran leaders. Mark Ingram has taken that role and ran with it and has been the consummate teammate. But everything I heard, now again, it's after he's already been cut, but I go and I do my work. And Earl Thomas was not that leader and was not a great teammate. And at the end of the day, this was just the boiling point or the last straw. I mean, week 4 last year, they lost 40-25 to the Browns. Apparently he had an altercation with Brandon Williams, who's a beloved player in that team, in the locker room, late for meetings, all that stuff. But the word was never, leader, and it wasn't ever voice of the locker room. It was really other stuff, and that's not what you need for that amount of money in a player of that age. So I'll just say this. They weren't wishing him well on his way out, and there's not a long line of Ravens staffers who are crying this morning.
Peter, in terms of that, like just talking about Earl, what does this do for him going forward? Because this is 2 teams, and I would say 2 teams who have really strong reputations for dealing with guys with loud personalities. What is that market going to be like for him going forward?
I don't know. I'm interested. Everyone assumes that the Cowboys would jump right at it, or that Dan Quinn, because his history with him in Seattle, would want him in Atlanta. Dan Quinn came out early Monday morning, said we have no interest at the time. And the Cowboys, look, we've been linking him to the Cowboys for 3 years now, so we'll see. But at that price, probably not much interest. But you're right, Bucky. I mean, who doesn't love playing for Pete Carroll and that Seahawks organization, and who doesn't have the strongest of praise for the Ravens and what they're doing there in Baltimore? It's not like these are 2 random teams. These are 2 of the most winningest franchises of the last decade, and kind of talked his way out of both.
Hey, Bucky, I want to get your thoughts on this, because we always talk about in college when we're scouting guys for the draft about don't scout the helmet, scout the player. There can be a better player at North Dakota State than there is at Alabama. You can't get caught up in the uniform. I think with veterans, sometimes we can get in trouble when we scout the name. And all of a sudden now you look at their game, where their game is right now does not match what their name or their reputation is. Personally, I don't think Earl Thomas is that great of a football player anymore. And to me, that goes a long way in deciding his fate here in Baltimore, was that it's the diminishing returns, man. At some point in time, it's like, it's not worth putting up with this for what we're getting out of it. And you've been around teams for a long time, Buck, and I saw you on Twitter talking about this decision. To me, and this is what you said, and I agree with you 100%. When you were talking about it's not a management versus player or coaches versus player. This was player versus player. The players wanted him out of there.
Yeah, and I think that's the telling thing. It's one thing if he had a misstep and the coaches were doing it, but the players like, nah, coach, we can get it together. But when players go to the coach and say, coach, he's not one of our kind of guys, like, you have to let him go. And Peter's alluded to the stuff that was coming out of them about like Earl missing meetings, not getting along with teammates, being on his own plan. They covered for a lot of that for a long time. And I think this was the boiling point, because the guy that he attacked or fought was someone who was like beloved by the squad. And I think they were like, look, coach, we can't keep putting up with this. Sometimes you have to have addition by subtraction. I think that's what the Baltimore Ravens feel in this case.
Yeah, and Chucky Clark is the player who during practice who they love and rave about and have really high hopes for. So you have that situation. He put the visuals on Twitter or Instagram with all 22
practice
film.
Footage. What are you doing?
Practice footage. Doing? I mean, that is like a cardinal sin in the locker room. And then my last thing is like, you know that they have confidence in the young man, Deshaun Elliott, who has played 6 snaps in his NFL career and has just played and appeared in 6 games. But for him to say, we're good, 2 weeks before the season, going with a third-year guy out of Texas, Deshaun Elliott, over a player who has more Pro Bowl appearances than Deshaun Elliott has game appearances, tells you a lot about what they think they have in their locker room. It's
funny, Peter, because you talk about that. I think it's important to compare Earl Thomas to the guys that left the locker room recently at that position. Eric Weddle is an A-plus dude, model teammate, great. Tony Jefferson, A-plus dude. So when you have those kind of dudes that this generation has played with, Earl Thomas doing his own thing was not going to work in that locker room.
Yeah, to me, it's a sign of a good organization and a good culture, in that everybody makes mistakes. What's different between teams is not some teams make mistakes and others don't make mistakes. The difference is the good organizations recognize the mistake, take the financial hit, even if they're able to recoup some of this money through what is it, contract detrimental, I guess, what they're calling it. You recoup some money. It's still a hit. But to me, it's okay, what's the greater good here? And I think that's the difference between these smart organizations and dumb organizations, is you admit your mistake, you cut your losses, and you move on, Pete.
Yeah, and there was all that talk of Antonio Brown coming to the Ravens. There's talk of Des Bryant coming to the Ravens. Maybe Des is, fully all in, all that, but there's a very particular chemistry and culture in every building. And Earl Thomas, they had him for more than 12 months. They rode that out, whatever. And I don't see the Ravens as one of these teams that doesn't vet and really go through the process of due diligence of what they're bringing into their building. And to just think they're going to drop Antonio Brown in after a 14-2 season, in which they had the most offensive production out of any Ravens team ever, they might be able to use him on the field. But remember, it's more than just on the field. It is representing that logo, representing that organization, and also representing that entire locker room. I'm not sure Antonio Brown makes a lot of sense if you just saw what they did with Earl Thomas.
I agree with you. I want to get now to what's going on with the New York Giants, because I saw you on Good Morning Football. And for those, if you're one of the handful of people that listen to this podcast that don't watch Schrager and company on Good Morning Football, shame on you. It's the best thing going on television right now. We love watching it. But I did see I think Kyle went all in on Joe Judge and talking about how he loves it. He loves this kind of old school approach. So I want 2 things from you, Schrags. Okay. I want what are you hearing? How is he being received in the locker room there and in the organization? And 2, I want your honest opinion of whether or not you think this is going to work with the Giants. Okay,
first and foremost, they are a young team, and I would almost say they don't know any better. So they're all in, from what I'm told, the players. I heard at Thursday's practice, Saquon made a mistake and just picked up his pads and went and did a lap around the practice field. And everyone's like, wow, if Saquon's doing it, we've all got to do it. I've heard position coaches have been running laps with the players after they make mistakes. And I think the New York media is eating it up, and the fan base is jumping right in, because the last 2 regimes, Ben McAdoo and Pat Shurmur, are not that disciplinarian. And yet when the Giants have had their most, winningest seasons or greatest success, it's been with Coughlin and Parcells. So this is almost a throwback to those days. Now, whether or not the media loves it and the players are buying in and the talk radio guys are all applauding it right now, the question is, what happens if they start out 0-4? How does this go? And how will these young players react when it comes November, December, and he wants more out of them and they want to see this results? Because he is a 38-year-old head coach for the first time at any level. I don't know how this goes year 1. I think it's working right now, and all the logic in the world, it makes sense. And I'd love to hear Bucky's thoughts on this, because he's saying the Steelers aren't coming in to do kumbaya. We got to play the Steelers in 14 days. So if we haven't tackled anybody yet, I don't know if that's considered such hardcore coaching. I think it's just what we need to do. Everyone seems to be on board. Joe Judge is not Belichick, of course, with the success and all that, but also there is a lighter side to him. He is a bit of a joker, and he does have a sense of humor, which he's shown to the teammates, his team, behind closed doors, I'm told, and players seem to like him. So I think it's working. But this is obviously a boiling pot, and if it doesn't go well early, these guys could say right away, we might be out of here on this.
Peter, it's funny that you bring that up. If he does, the only thing I've ever said about it is, if he's being authentic, if this is who he is and what he really believes in, it can work. But he has to build a relationship with the players. It is very reminiscent of Tom Coughlin taking over Jacksonville when I was down there. When the team is young and they're fresh out of college, they don't know any better, because this is all they've been exposed to. And so he can get away with it in that vein. I'm curious, though, because Jason Garrett doesn't strike me as being that type.
Nope.
So how is Jason Garrett going to fit in under this kind of tight, super detailed regime when that really wasn't his MO when he dealt with the Dallas Cowboys as a head coach?
And he's been the hidden character throughout this training camp. He hasn't done a ton of media. He's got his own office, kind of lays low. And it's been the Joe Judge show. I think Joe Judge is leaning on Jason Garrett. And I did have access to talk to some folks in the organization because I was asking, well, what's Garrett's role? Is he calling the plays? All stuff like Jason Garrett's the offensive coordinator. You will see him do media availability. That will happen. But this is Joe Judge's team. So I wonder if the players are getting a little annoyed with Joe Judge, or it's getting to be October and that high energy, rah-rah stuff is wearing thin. Do they turn to Jason Garrett for another voice and say, well, this guy did it for 10 years? I mean, it should be interesting. I think the Giants are one of the more fascinating teams in the football world this year because I don't know what we're going to get. And yet there's a ton of young talent. And if this coach is the right hire, this could be a huge, huge, huge win for that fan base.
Let's stay in the same city there with the Jets. You've been talking about it. I've seen you on TV talking about it, about some optimism, obviously, with Sam Darnold. You're talking to two guys that believe in Sam coming out. So we're, very optimistic and hopeful there. What are you hearing there, and what do you anticipate happening with this offense and how this whole group comes together with some question marks on the outside, but a lot of new pieces, in my opinion, some nice upgrades up front?
Yeah, look, on paper, they upgraded with the offensive line. Everyone speaks the world of Becton. I don't know if he's going to be great out of the gates, but he at least is big enough and he's going to play. But you nailed it on the outside. Like Denzel Mims hasn't done anything because of the hamstring. Perryman walked off with an injury. Vincent Smith's done for the year. You don't have Robbie Anderson back. You're looking at Jamison Crowder and Braxton Berrios and Chris Hogan a week into his Jets career. I don't know who he's throwing to. The big bright side name that we're hearing about from everybody is that Chris Herndon is finally healthy and on the field, and they have high expectations. But look, the AFC East is wide open, and everyone's raving about Darnold, and apparently Le'Veon Bell looks the part. But you guys tell me, I don't know. Who's he throwing to? What are the expectations? Because the Bills and Patriots are going to be pretty good this year too.
Yeah, Peter, it's interesting because you talk about the Jets offense. I'm more concerned about their defense. When you talk to people in and around the program, what has the defense been like? Because losing Jamal Adams leaves a huge void on the defensive side of the ball.
And not only Jamal Adams, think about who opted out.
CJ Mosley. Yeah.
I mean, CJ Mosley, they signed to $17 million a year, and in his first 2 seasons is going to end up playing one half of football as a New York Jet. And there's nothing wrong with what his decision was, but that was a major blow to the Jets. He was supposed to be healthy and the leader, and now you're like, all right, Avery Williamson, we kind of need you to step up. And Ashton Davis, a rookie out of Cal, I need you to step up at safety. And Bless Austin out of Rutgers. These are names that we were not expecting to have to play huge roles. So right on with you there, Bucky. And again, it's a test of Greg Williams. If you ask Greg Williams how they're going to do, he'll say they're going to be just fine. Just give me 11 guys. We'll go to work. I think talent on the field does matter. And Jamal Adams and CJ Mosley are major blows to that defense.
I like what I'm hearing, too, though, about Marcus May dropping down and playing more of that Jamal Adams role. And they put Ashton Davis. One thing we need to give Ashton Davis, Buck, is you got to get him some binoculars because in that Greg Williams defense, he's going to be about 40 yards deep back there. So you get some binoculars so you can actually see what's happening up in front of you.
Absolutely, because he's the ornament on top of the Christmas tree.
I mean, seriously.
He's so far out of there. Peter, one of the things that also came out about the Jets, obviously in the dust-up with Jamal Adams, there was some concern about Adam Gase and his coaching style. Has he changed at all in terms of his interaction with the players?
No, and I think Le'Veon Bell was the surprise quote of the summer when he was like, Coach Gates is great. He's authentic. We get along wonderfully. Like, I don't know if that was just, playing to the ego of Adam Gase or maybe trying to start a new leaf or whatever it is, or turn over to. But I don't think the players that are in that building, I'll be honest, we talked about Earl Thomas and leaving Baltimore. Like when Jamal Adams was going through all this, a lot of the Jets were quiet publicly and all stuff. Jamal Adams left, and I didn't see a long list of players saying, how are we going to play without Jamal Adams either? I think you take it for a grain of salt and you consider the source when he's trashing the GM, the coach, the owner on the way out. And it's kind of like, all right, good luck. We'll root you on in Seattle. But that's not the energy they're looking for. And from a lot of those young guys, they really do like Adam Gase, even if it is second year, and we'll see what happens.
All right, Pete, one of the things you're doing outside of GMFB is you're hosting this new podcast on Hard Knocks, and it's outstanding. I want to get your quick takeaway here. The two teams. First of all, the criticism of Hard Knocks, and this coming from somebody who calls the Charger games, has been, these teams are kind of boring. Like there's no sizzle to what's going on in Hard Knocks thus far. What's your take, A, on the show, and B, on those two teams?
All right, the show, I don't know what you're looking for as far as dramatics on the field when there's been no football. So what they did that first episode, you guys tell me, like, I haven't seen any footage, and we work at the NFL Network, and you guys do this and do TV. Like, I haven't seen any footage of COVID testing, and they were up the kids' nostrils. Like, we got all access. I expect this week we're going to get a lot more access with the opening of the stadium, with the SoFi Stadium, but this is stuff we're not getting. I mean, this is a real issue right now with NFL media, and I think it's going to play out more. We saw some grumblings out of Green Bay in the last couple of weeks about, their access, but because of the coronavirus in tier 1 and tier 2, the local media really is constricted or restricted from what they can get. So we don't get the usual reporting we do of day to day. We see a practice, but we have it, but we're not allowed in the building and whatever it is. Hard Knocks is giving us all access, all you could ask for. So I would say that's been good and has been filling a void with a lot of the stuff that, the local media is reporting off watching on a monitor somewhere in the facility or outside the facility. And as for these two teams, I don't know, rookie quarterback that doesn't seem to have the most verbose personality and not being the most vocal, seeing how they usher him in, I find that interesting. And then two players, Jalen Ramsey and Melvin Ingram, who are two of the biggest personalities in the league, currently playing without new contracts as this thing plays out. I think that's interesting stuff too. So I like the two head coaches. I like the star players, but I do think with two teams, it's harder to really dive in with as much detail as we used to get with at least one of the squads.
Hey, Peter, it's interesting that you brought up both head coaches because I think this has given us quite the contrast in terms of leadership styles and coaching styles. Based on what you know about both guys, Sean McVay and Anthony Lynn, how similar are they, but really how different are they in terms of their approaches with their squads?
Totally. And Bucky, I've had this great honor that both teams offered up the coaches to be guests on the podcast. So the first week we had Anthony Lynn, the second week we had Sean McVay, and it's two different conversations. Anthony Lynn is as cerebral as it gets. He also kind of delegates a bit like, hey, this is Gus Bradley, a former NFL head coach. He is going to run the defense. On offense, we trust what we have here with our offensive coordinator and what we're going to be building. I will assist, of course, but I'll be there, but I'm more of the CEO. McVay, he gets his hands dirty. I think one of the true challenges for McVay this season is going to be letting go because he hired Kevin O'Connell as the offensive coordinator and he hired Brandon Staley, who matches his enthusiasm. And we love Coach Wade, and Wade Phillips was fantastic, but here comes 35-year-old Brandon Staley with a whole new energy, and it's going to be McVay's opportunity to maybe let go of a little bit, let Kevin work with Jared Goff somewhat, and let Brandon Staley call his own defense without McVay hovering and seeing what it is. So I think each coach has a challenge, but do go about their head coaching job differently. And I think this season's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out.
Yeah, again, I want to encourage everybody to check out the podcast. That's the Hard Knocks podcast hosted by Pete. Peter, the Patriots, everything coming out of there, I guess it's not a surprise, and we've kind of handicapped it. I think everybody is handicapped that this is going to be Cam Newton's job. But now it seems like wherever there might have been any hint of a competition, that's starting to disappear.
A little bit. I think we have to at least appreciate and respect how little time Cam Newton has been there. So I think they wanted to ease this in. They didn't want to down him the number one guy right away, but I would be shocked come September 13th if he's not the starting quarterback. And Stidham had a minor injury, so he spent the night in the hospital. Turned out to be okay. It's fine. If Stidham was lighting it up every day in practice, I still don't necessarily think I would say Stidham was going to be the number one quarterback. They went and they got Cam Newton. He's Cam Newton. They're going to give it a shot. As long as he's healthy, I'm fairly certain that he will be the number one guy. But that doesn't mean they don't love what they have in Stidham. I got taken down on the mat on our show quite a bit on Good Morning Football because for 2 months I was raving about how much they love Stidham, and then they went out and signed Cam Newton. I make the point, hey, time out. They signed Cam Newton after 30 other teams passed, and they got him for, I think, $2 million this year. Yeah. That's just a bargain.
1.75.
And that's just a bargain. It doesn't mean that they don't like Stidham. In this case, Stidham still will get reps. He'll still have an opportunity, and let's see how Cam holds up. Now, Bucky, I know you spent time in Carolina. I know you cover all those guys. It's not just the shoulder. It's not just the foot. It's just this total package, and I think a lot of people are expecting Cam Newton 2015, and I'm just not sure that's what we're going to get. Whether it was 2 months in the building, 1 month in the building, or another year in the building.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting matchup. I will say this on Cam's behalf. I think this is the best coaching that he's going to get in terms of being forced to pay attention to the details. What I'm interested in, Peter, everyone is kind of written off the Patriots like they're not going to be good. They've been to the playoffs 11 years in a row, yet when you hear the outside noise, the expectation like they're going to be 5-11.
Yep.
When you look at the team roster, whatever it is, do you expect them still to be in the conversation as one of the teams that could be in the winner's circle in the AFC?
I know you guys go on Colin Cowherd's show. So do I. One of the theories he tossed out there was that they were going to compete, but Belichick wouldn't be too upset if they ended up losing this season and ended up getting a shot at Trevor Lawrence. That's not Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick does not want to see 4-12 on his resume. He does not want to see 5-11. He certainly doesn't want to see the Buffalo Bills or the New York Jets or, the Miami Dolphins winning a division title under his watch. So I just don't think it's in their nature not to compete and not to put a best foot forward. They still have the reigning defensive player of the year on their team. They maybe have the best running backs in the league on their team. And they still have Josh McDaniels calling the plays and Bill Belichick running the entire building. So I would be shocked, really shocked, if they weren't at least 8-8, 9-7. And I think there's a good shot they still win that division, even with all the losses to the roster this season.
Yeah, there's an old phrase, right? Winners win, losers lose. I mean, sometimes that's all they know how to do is win up there. But by the way, for those that are listening right now, you can't see it. Peter's wearing a hat that says SWEAT, SWET, which actually is an acronym, stands for Schrager wants extra tatis.
More tatis.
Yeah, he wants more. He can't get enough.
21-year-old kid. His father played baseball. He's played baseball his entire life. He swings on a 3-0 pitch up about 8 runs and then says, "Oh, wait, what? What happened? Get out of here with that."
I mean, like, don't throw the tater up there if you don't want him to hit it. Like,
I hear you. Come on.
Don't get the 3-0.
Play the game the right way, Tatis. Play the game. Mike Trout's not swinging at that.
You should be more mad about the fact that he stole third base when they're up by 6 runs, as opposed to the thing.
He didn't get the pitch to the plate. He stole it off the pitcher.
It was incredible. I'm playing a curmudgeon role. Of course, I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Phenomenal. All right, let's talk some rookies here, Shregs. I know you've got your ear to the ground here. One guy that you've been hyping up a little bit is somebody we've talked about being a perfect fit, and now with Damian Williams opting out, it's a perfect opportunity as well. What are you hearing out of Kansas City?
Yeah, I mean, everything I've gotten in my phone and from people who are in the building and people who have gotten to know the kid is that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the real deal and everything more. I don't talk fantasy football too much because I don't know all the mechanisms on the scoring and stuff, but someone texted me, who's in our world and was like, "Is it crazy if I take him first overall in a fantasy draft?" I'm like, well, as long as Christian McCaffrey's roaming the earth, probably. But I wouldn't think it's too crazy to go top 3. That's how much they value this kid. He's already picked up pass protection, which I think is huge for a rookie. So he catches out of the backfield. And more importantly, the other players seem to love him. Like Mahomes has been raving about him. Andy Reid has been super positive about him. And I know we love to get carried away and stuff, but that offense, it is turnkey. They bring back everyone, and it's not just on the field. You have Eric Bieniemy back as the offensive coordinator. You have Mike Kafka back as the quarterbacks coach. You have all the position coaches back, and you're plugging him in without a real challenger at running back as a first-round pick. I think he's going to put up huge numbers, and I think that team might be lights out right from go.
Peter, everyone has a pet cat. Meaning everyone has a guy that they just absolutely love in this process. Of all the rookie pass catchers, who is the guy that you expect to see the immediate pop when they take the field in September?
Yeah, the guy that I think might have an immediate pop, and it wasn't a first-round pick, is Van Jefferson, who is going to McVay's offense, is already a student of the game. And I know this because I've seen Cooper Kupp do that. Not a first-round pick, but be plugged into the offense. And as long as you're polished and ready to go, you can make that impact. Look, I think CeeDee Lamb is going to be absolutely amazing. I think he's my top wide receiver. He's going to be fantastic. But if you're looking for that under-the-radar guy, it's probably going to be Jefferson, who's going to get looks, is going to be a part of the offense. And with Brandon Cooks gone and Josh Reynolds now trying to figure out his role next to Woods and Kupp, I wouldn't be shocked if Van Jefferson played a big role in the Rams offense this year.
Can I give you guys a good idea for something to do on GMFB that probably won't land because it probably skews to an older audience, but Bucky and myself and Pete, you will remember this era. But I think the first week of the season, what's going to happen is you're going to have Justin Jefferson's going to go like 8 for 115. Van Jefferson's probably going to go like 5 for 75. You guys have to do a Jefferson's
moving
skit.
on up.
You've got to do a skit. Not many people are going to get it, but the people that do get it are going to absolutely love it.
Absolutely.
We'll just call it moving on up, and then we go from there. It's perfect. Yeah. I love it, dude. I love it. It's
Can
great.
we get the rights to the song though? I mean, I don't know if we're going to shell out the cash for that.
Probably not. How many times in both of your dealings before the draft were people saying that it was Justin Jefferson, who was the son of Sean Jefferson, and you had to subtly and politely correct them that it's actually Van Jefferson? It's happened probably 30 times on our show, with Nate Burleson doing it 30 straight times. So just got to politely correct him and move on. That's all it is.
Any other rookies keep an eye on, Peter?
Yeah, I think Cam Akers is going to play a lot for the Rams also. And then as far as the quarterbacks go, I would just preach patience. And you guys know this more than anybody. It's such a weird offseason. And if you're expecting Tua or Herbert to get in the lineup right away, or for Burrow to light it up right away, just how much it goes into being a first-year quarterback in this league. And my expectations are not that they're low. I don't think you're going to see the same numbers out of our rookie quarterbacks that we've come accustomed to.
What are you hearing on Burrow? Well, I mean, he's going to start week 1. So what do you?
Good. Like, everyone's trying to hype this out of control, but like, just temper your expectations. He plays in a really tough division. He's just getting to know these wide receivers. He's just met Zach Taylor in person a few weeks ago to start working on the offense. And he's never played in the NFL before. So yes, they are super excited long-term for him. And I think they want to be competitive this year, and we can hype up Joe Mixon and AJ Green and T Higgins and the rest, but let's just show a little bit more patience, maybe a little bit more leeway with these rookie quarterbacks than in years past.
All right. I think this is about it for us here, Buck. Anything else you want to give from my guy Peter here before we wrap this thing up?
Peter, give me a surprise team. Give me a team that is going to surprise everybody coming out the gate.
We've got ours. We're on record with ours.
Let me hear your two teams first so I don't overlap. Let me hear
It's one and the same. The Arizona Cardinals. We pinky swear that the Arizona Cardinals are going to be in the mix.
Yep.
Both of you pinky swear on the Arizona Cardinals. Yep. I will give you a team that nobody's talking about that I think can really make some noise this year, and that's the Detroit Lions. I'll leave it at that. Don't think I'm crazy.
You and Mina Kimes are all in on the Detroit Lions.
Is Mina Kimes in on the Detroit Lions?
The Fighting Patricias. Yes, you guys are all in.
Spoke to Stafford. All right. Guys dialed in. Galladay dialed in. New rookie running back dialed in. And Patricia year 3.
I heard Hawkinson's had a great camp, by the way.
Hey, no one knows how to hype up TJ Hawkinson more than the guy that made him the 8th overall pick, Daniel Jeremiah. Hope you got a cut of that one.
This is the year.
This is the year. But in all honesty, I think the pieces might be there, and it's do or die for Patricia and Quinn, I think, and they know it, and I think the team's going to rally around it. Let's see. I don't know. These predictions, everyone had the Browns going to the Super Bowl last year, so we'll see.
That would be my other team, by the way. Bucky, if we had to come up with another team, who would it be? Because to me, I actually like Cleveland.
Man, it's funny because I love the Browns. And I think Kevin Stefanski bringing his scheme, I think it's going to work because the play action scheme, and people don't talk about Kareem Hunt enough. The Kareem Hunt-Nick Chubb combination is problematic for defensive coordinators, and more play action with Odell Beckham Jr., Austin Hooper, and Jarvis Landry. Their offense is loaded.
Great offensive line too. I mean, that's the thing. You add in Conklin and the other rookie. I mean, it's all there on paper, right?
The way I look at it, Schrags, and I'm not somebody that's spent time in clubs, so this is just based off of movies that I've seen. But it felt like last year, if the playoffs were a club, that you had the Cleveland Browns with a very loud outfit trying to work their way to the front of the line and just thinking they were going to get ushered right in, and the Browns like, get the heck out of here. Now I feel like the Browns have kind of tiptoed around the back of the club and are kind of they're going to sneak right in the back door of the playoffs this year.
I love it.
Quietly.
I love it. The 49ers were like that YouTube star that no one expected to be having 5 million followers and gets to cut to the front of the line and get the free bottle service. I know. I guess that's the analogy.
Oh, that's fantastic. Hey, that was a lot of fun, Peter, man. I appreciate you joining us today, man.
I love both of you guys. Thanks so much for having me. It really means a lot.
I appreciate it. Again, everybody check out GMFB and check out Peter's new podcast here, the Hard Knocks Podcast, talking all things Chargers and Rams. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch you next time right here on Move the Sticks.